The click of the front door's lock woke you from your slumber before you felt a pounding throb between your brows. Squinting your eyes to try to rid yourself of the ebbing pain, you rose up from the bed, pinching the bridge of your nose and groaning from the aches on your body. You felt stiff, as if you hadn't moved in days, but you recalled what happened last night while you walked home from Night High's agency after the long day shift. You remembered your breath visible in the chill, the warmth of your scarf, the dim light of the streetlights ahead, the feeling of being watched. You opened your eyes slowly as soon as the pain subsided. That feeling of being followed ensnared your heart. You even made sure to take a different route home to be sure. But the night turned blacker than it was, and the smell of pine and some other scent, musky by your vague recollection, engulfed your senses. Or perhaps there was a hint of fresh linen in the mix, but you did smell something oddly sweet. Your eyes widened upon realization of that sweetness in your nostrils. Chloroform. Someone had knocked you out. You quickly scanned the room you woke up in, realizing now that you weren't at your apartment. The bedroom was bare. The walls had no photos or paintings of such. The bedside table was empty of anything. All that was in this room was the bed and yourself. The smell of linen now filled your senses as you shifted in the bed, now knowing it wasn't yours. Clean sheets, crisp and soft. Was it freshly cleaned? You clenched onto the fabric, feeling its texture on your fingers. It felt nice before you checked the rest of your body for any physical harm. So far, nothing, except that the clothes that you last wore were not on your person. Instead, you found yourself in something else. A clean white shirt and loose pants. Generic, almost clinical, but what filled you with dread was that someone dressed you while you were knocked out. The sound of shuffling caught your ear outside of the bedroom while you slowly slid from the bed, lightly making your way to the door and into what looked to be an apartment. Taking the corner, you found your way to the open kitchen, peeking around the doorframe to find someone standing by the counter, laying out items from a few bags. You stared at the scene perplexed. Were those groceries? The man's back was facing you while you inspected the rest of the room. Much like the bedroom, it was empty of any personal effects. No photos, no items of sentimental value. It was as if this was a newly renovated apartment ready to be moved in. Except for the television set up in the open lounge area, there was nothing else that could tell you where you were taken. "I know you're awake," cooed the man from the counter, causing you to whip around the corner out of sight. You hugged against the wall, hoping that would keep you hidden and quiet while the man stopped in what he was doing. There was silence. Nothing but the sound of a can being placed on the counter. "Don't be frightened," reassured the man, his voice edging closer towards the hallway entrance. "I'm happy that you woke up. I didn't realize how much I've given you before you fell asleep. The last thing I wanted was to cause any future repercussions." That voice. "Anyway, I won't do that ever again. I'm just so happy to have found you." You raised your hands to your mouth, hoping that alone will hold the gasp that would have escaped upon your realization. Out of every scenario that could have played out of any of the villains that existed, you mentally cursed to yourself. Why him? The thought escaped you as soon as a tight grip encircled your throat, pushing you against the wall. Your hands immediately gripped onto the wrists that bound you, looking into the deep emerald eyes of the man who took you to this place. Izuku Midoriya grinned with smiling doe-like eyes, his gloved hand slowly tightening around your neck while the other caressed its fingers against your cheek.
It's a little bare right now, but I'll be decorating it a little to make it more homey for you,
he purred, while his eyes unnervingly stared into yours.
You've been the apple in my eye for a while. I couldn't keep my sights off of you.
How ironic. Midoriya, or notoriously known as Deku around the precinct, had been your primary case back at Night Eye's agency. You had followed every move he made, from random acts of vandalism, organized robberies, and the occasional mob confrontation with police. However, he was notorious for his kidnappings. The number of people who had disappeared over the course of his villainy was astounding that it eclipsed that of Ground Zero's quarterly cull. A totally different matter, and under different jurisdiction.
I've known a lot about you,
he cooed, tightening his grip around your neck.
I bet you're dying to learn so much about me. I know enough,
you uttered, trying to keep yourself calm under the circumstances.
Star pupil turned rogue, and then you've gone dark until that one robbery. I'm flattered. My little puppet's still keeping tabs on me. Don't you remember the good old days? How coy you were, and I was so stupidly and unconditionally bashful about you.
With every question he posed, his hand tightened around your neck, causing you to wince from the pressure in his grip.
I'm so happy that you're the one who's been on my case this whole time. It was like it was meant to be after all. You know why I was elected to find you?
You started, piquing his interest.
We had history.
Have, corrected Midoriya.
We have history, and we'll continue to keep making it.
Midoriya stared into your eyes, only to feel the soft touch of your fingers wrap around his wrists that held your neck. You breathed in deep, in, then out, keeping your nerves from getting the best of you. His emerald eyes were haunting, a shadow of what he used to be, still in the eerily calm gaze he held onto you. His outfit opposed his mannerisms, dressed prim and proper in a waistcoat. The cut of it looked a little familiar.
What's the matter?
He queried, taking your eyes away from his suit and into the sly yet oddly calm look in his eye.
Admiring the view? I know I am.
You soon felt his hand pull you away from the wall, still in his clutches while he turned you around to walk you into the open kitchen, his hand now grasping the back of your neck. The pressure never left, still gripping onto your jugular. If he wasn't going to choke you, he could easily break your neck with a twist of his wrist, should he choose. However, you knew he was right. The both of you had history in your academy years, and you were banking on those days to keep him from snapping your neck.
I was thinking of a splash of green to remind you of me when I'm not around,
proposed Midoriya without a care in the world.
And I'm sorry about the bed. I'll be replacing it with a king very soon. What? I'm not
A squeeze stopped your words from spilling, as if Midoriya anticipated your protest. His smile radiated something different, a smouldering anger beneath its almost innocent demeanor.
Of course you are,
he exclaimed.
You're part of the family now. My family. Everyone gets a place to themselves, and better yet, like family, we all share together.
His semi-ramblings were confusing while you rushed through your mind and memory on any details about his kidnappings. Any stringent clue to what and why he was doing this. In the recess of your mind filled with adrenaline, you recalled his choices in his kidnappings. They were by random. No particular age, gender, social status, or location ever fit. His profiling on his victims were randomized by the eye. However, you knew one thing that tied them together. Their quirk classifications.
Where are the others?
You asked with bated breath. The grip on your neck slowly loosened, but only by a fraction, easing your breathing, while you glanced at his expression filled with glee.
They're all here, above and below you, to the left and the right, but don't worry, no one will disturb you. I made sure of it with soundproof walls.
You glanced around the bare apartment, realizing that you hadn't heard anything from the walls at all. It had been silent, sans for your voice and his in this empty place.
Still, I'll be visiting you much more often than the others,
he continued on.
They have made themselves comfortable in their own homes. Now it's your turn.
You found yourself standing by the open island counter in the kitchen, half of it still covered with the canned goods and groceries he brought. Mostly canned goods, anyhow. You spotted a few frozen or chilled meats, some various vegetables that may keep, even a treat or two. It twisted your stomach a little. The items he bought almost felt like he was buying for a
"You can organize things the way you want,"
he spoke, interrupting your thoughts.
"But I'm more than happy to be the cook every once in a while for you. I can make our favorite."
His favorite, you thought, noticing the ingredients for a katsudon dish amongst the bags.
"Thanks, but no thanks,"
you retorted.
"I'm more than capable of living on my own."
The sudden inertia of his grip pushed you into the counter head first, while your hands instinctively reached out to take the brunt of the force first. It didn't help your head though, now pushed into the clean white marble finish. You raised your hands to grip onto his wrist, feeling the strength of it tighten and the weight of his arm push you into the cold surface.
"I don't appreciate my guests back talking,"
he sneered, his tone dark and sinister, the first time you've heard it like this since speaking to him.
"I give you a roof over your head, pay for your food, a bed to sleep in. Well, until I find a larger one for this apartment. And I even offered myself to help around the home. I rarely offer that."
You grunted against his strength, feeling his hand heat momentarily while sparks of green shot around. Still gripping his wrist, you ceased struggling at the sight of his energy bouncing off from his arm. This was dangerous territory.
"That's better, Puppet. Stay."
You heard a stifled grunt from Midoriya before he began scratching at his arm that pinned you to the kitchen counter.
"Still have skin problems?"
You asked, attempting to change tactics now that disagreements weren't getting past him.
"Thought you'd keep up with your routine, seeing how immaculate your process is."
The squeeze of his hand jerked into your neck, Perhaps it was smarter to stay quiet, but the longer you kept conversation, possibly the less harm he could do to you. Unfortunately, keeping him entertained may prove useful.
Shut up,
he snapped.
I don't need that. All I needed, all I ever wanted, was you. And now I do.
The doorbell caught Midoriya's attention, as did yours, while the both of you stared at the front door. The pressure of his weight pressed against your neck and your back, before you felt his breath against your ear, his lips hovering close to your earlobe.
Now, be good,
he threatened playfully.
If you are, I'll let you have some fun.
With a slight push of his hand, you felt him lift himself to his feet, leaving you by the kitchen island counter. The pressure of his grip still lingered on your neck while you gingerly rubbed against it, slowly pushing yourself off from the counter while Midoriya slowly opened the door.
You're early,
he welcomed with a smile.
You're not supposed to be due for the next 30 minutes.
Yes, but I'm on a tight schedule, and I don't want the commission to catch wind of me hanging around your doll houses. That voice sounded familiar while you shook your head, hoping that the rush of blood will normalize for you to comprehend who was at the door. Through your vision filled with stars, you recognized a familiar outfit with coattails and the number of clocks across his belt. His almost blonde white hair prim and immaculate.
Phantom?
You whispered, your vision finally returning to spot the pro-hero Phantom Thief by Midoriya's door. Well, by your door, in this case. Nato Monoma looked into the room, spotting you by the counter, slightly dazed. Is that the one? He asked Midoriya, watching the grin appear on his face.
Absolutely,
chirped Midoriya.
We worked well together back at the academy, and they were the first thing I thought of when you requested specifics.
His eyes turned towards you with a gleam, watching you dazed by the kitchen counter.
We'd kill two birds with one stone. You need sniper-like vision, and I get to keep my puppet. Forever.
With a skip in his step, Midoriya strolled past Monoma, twirling a set of keys on his finger that jingled with every revolution. Your eyes focused on the set, only to realize your quirk refused to activate.
What the?
You whispered, looking around to see if you could actively focus on anything in the room, even if it was a speck of dust. But nothing, as if your quirk was suppressed somehow. Was this Midoriya's way of keeping people in check? Midoriya, did you at least cover your tracks when you grabbed them? Asked Monoma, a slight concern in his voice while he eyed your dazed form.
Of course, what do you take me for? I'm not like Kirishima, you know,
commented Midoriya with a cheerful tone.
Nice guy, but he doesn't think ahead sometimes. Now, there's the subject of the entry fee.
Midoriya raised his fingers, motioning towards Monoma with an open palm. A languid sigh escaped Monoma's lips before he eyed the green-haired man with a skeptical look. Enough with the fanfare, Midoriya. You know I wired everything to you, he commented.
True, but they are mine, so I'm asking for a little premium for this,
chirped Midoriya.
They weren't easy to get for your mission, you know.
Both men stared down at each other. Monoma with an unimpressed look while Midoriya held his cheeky grin. With another sigh, Monoma dug into his pockets, pulling out a rolled bundle of cash into Midoriya's palm.
Don't be too rough with them,
playfully warned Midoriya, releasing Monoma from the negotiation.
I want my fun later, once I tend to a handful of my neighbors.
A little fun didn't hurt anybody, commented Monoma with a scoff. I'll need to ask a few questions anyway. You stood ready and anxious of Monoma's statement, knowing well of how the Phantom Thief operated. But to see a pro-hero here, of all places, partaking in a villain's operations.
You're with him?
You questioned, your hands outstretched before you, anticipating his every move. No, not at all, remarked Monoma while he closed in on you on approach. It's a mutual understanding. Your eyes, filled with fear and confusion, turned to Midoriya closing the front door. You searched for his eyes again, hidden away on his face while he looked away. It sickened your stomach to comprehend the current situation, hoping that whatever past the both of you shared would just be enough to bring him back.
Midoriya!
You called out, causing him to cease his actions. Monoma stopped before he glanced back at Midoriya. A moment of silence, cold as ice, settled before a large smirk appeared on Midoriya's lips, his eyes filled with a sudden happiness.
That's the first time in a long time that you spoke my name,
he quietly responded before he continued to shut the door.
We'll work our way up very soon. No! Wait!
With a twist of his wrist, Midoriya locked the door, leaving Monoma with you. He wished he could hear what would transpire, but soundproof walls make for a quiet neighborhood. With a click of his heel, Midoriya trotted down the hallway, continuing to twirl his set of keys on his fingers. He couldn't contain his smile, filled to the brim with excitement and content, while he eyed all of his possessions locked away in a slew of buildings that made the 2 to 3 blocks. He had a small portion of the city, but enough to uphold his business and to keep his additions to the family in his set-up dollhouses. Clean, immaculate, and absolutely, eerily serene.
Welcome to the neighborhood, puppet.